Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 28 of the Masterclass. My name is Cam, and I'm here across the table from Dave.
Yes, I'm here once again.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
You know, I'm okay.
Okay.
We're recording a day early,
That's right.
but, you know, it's my day off, so I suppose I could swing it. Well, we're here. We should probably start talking about important things.
Sounds good.
We gave Dave I don't know, was it self-assigned homework?
Might have been.
2 episodes ago. We didn't get to it last episode, but we've got time for it today. So, Dave, why don't you tell us about Son of Man and what that means?
When we were discussing it 2 episodes ago, I think we very much agreed that Son of Man was referring to his humanity. And as I researched this, that was definitely one of the things that came up over and over again, that referring to himself as Son of Man is referencing the fact that he was human, that he was born, that he came into the world the same way that you and I did, and that it was very much one of the more common ways for him to refer to himself. And I found a lot of different material and things that were kind of speaking to me, and tried to put it into my own words. And ultimately, I found, I think this is from an audio part of You Can Ask the Pastor, sort of a thing. You can ask John Piper about, both terms, Son of God and Son of Man. And as we mentioned, Son of God would refer to his deity. So that is the opposite of Son of Man. Fully God, fully man. So anyway, I won't belabor this too much longer, but I will read excerpts from this particular answer that John Piper gave. And it starts with, the more sophisticated and important historical insight is that the term Son of Man doesn't merely align him with humanity. It is probably taken from Daniel 7. And if you read that chapter, you'll see that the Son of Man is a very exalted figure. Not just a human figure, but an exalted figure. It was Jesus' favorite designation. I think the reason he did this is because on the face of it, Son of Man is an ordinary phrase for human being. He was born of a man. And there's no offense there. Who isn't a son of man? But those with ears to hear could hear Daniel 7, in which he was claiming a very exalted role in the history of redemption, and he meant to do it. And that, to me, just really hit home with what I guess I was sort of sensing, in that, yes, the term Son of Man is a very ordinary, nobody would have any objection to that, doesn't seem to have anything to it, but just in the same way that, he spoke in parables, and there was always more to his parable. There's kind of this sort of like, who's paying attention, who's listening. And again, it's referring to Daniel 7, which we hit on 2 weeks ago, in which he was claiming a very exalted role in the history of redemption. And then I just love these last 6 words, and he meant to do it. And it just kind of had that kind of, Jesus being humble and modest and all that. But if you're paying attention, there's more to it. And that's just kind of what I guess I was feeling was, there just seems like there's something out there. So I don't know if that satisfies the listeners, but it very much hit me as to what it was I was kind of sensing about that title that, I don't know, maybe we did hit on when we were talking about it, but.
Of course we did, Dave. We're perfect.
I don't remember.
Well, wouldn't you like to be somebody who is like smart enough that you could like always have like the 2 levels of meaning to what you say?
Yes, that would be insane.
It'd be pretty awesome. Usually mine's just like dumb puns. People just shake their head and like, oh my gosh, he still doesn't get it. But anyways, I think that was a good follow-up and definitely useful. We will have links to that stuff in the show notes too.
Yes.
So, all right. I don't believe we have any more follow-up.
I don't think so.
Oh, sad. So I suppose we can just move on to tonight's main topic.
Yes.
which is Matthew. Yep, we're still in Matthew. Matthew chapter 8, verses 28 through 34. Dave, would you do the honors as always?
Sure. So Matthew 8, 28 through 34. And when he came to the other side, to the country of Jeddah.
It's not Jedi's. That's Star Wars.
I don't know why
The Gadarenes.
Thank you. I don't know why it was coming out like that. Like I couldn't. Thank you.
Or you're not
Gadarenes.
possessed by.
No,
There's no pigs around here, so you should. There's just cows. That would be a lot harder, I think.
there are many cows. So,
Anyways,
all right. And when he came to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men met him, coming out of the tombs, so fierce that no one could pass that way. And behold, they cried out, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now a herd of many pigs was feeding at some distance from them, and the demons begged him, saying, "If you cast us out, send us away into the herd of pigs." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters. The herdsmen fled, and going into the city, they told everything, especially what had happened to the demon-possessed men. And behold, all the city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they begged him to leave their region.
this is such a weird story.
This is a very weird story.
Everything about it is weird.
I would agree.
Yeah. This one's always confused me.
Yeah. Troy.
And we have many questions to extrapolate upon our confusion. But you wrote this first question, and I don't really know what you mean by it, so I'm going to let you keep talking.
Sure. Basically, I suppose there's 2 different sides to this because I have a follow-up question with it as well. But the first question is does our world have an unhealthy obsession with evil? And a couple of things that just sort of came to my mind were, one, the popularity of zombies these days. Before that, I think it was vampires that people were into. And, there's plenty of slasher movies that are out there. There's plenty of reality shows that deal with the paranormal and ghost hunters and things like that. The other piece is that I work midnight shift. I'm up all night. And so I listen to midnight radio. Specifically, I listen to Coast to Coast.
Is that like the supernatural radio stuff?
Yeah, well, it's supernatural. Just anything out of the, they deal with conspiracies a lot, aliens, that sort of thing. And
Area 51, man.
Area 51, yes,
It's real.
And I will say it's very entertaining. I enjoy enjoy listening to it. But do we have? And maybe even maybe saying an unhealthy obsession with evil is the wrong way to say it. Do we have an unhealthy perspective of spirituality? Do we have an unhealthy perspective of, it just seems to me like there's a longing from the world for this kind of stuff, but it's misplaced.
Sounds about right.
So that was, I think, just really kind of where I was coming from on that of just, we don't talk about it much in normal everyday conversation. At least my experience isn't that. Or when you do talk about spirituality, or you are talking with Christians, we don't come to demons much. But it seems like to me that we do have things like, I've heard many conversations about what somebody would do if the zombie apocalypse happened. And I'm just like, really? So.
Yeah, it is. I had a recent conversation with a coworker, and this person said that they don't believe in demons. They were talking about some like exorcism show. And she's like, I don't believe in that stuff. I'm just kind of like, really? You don't? Like, I don't know how Christians. Now, this girl's not a Christian, so she just might deny the whole shebang. But like, so many people I've talked to in the church are like, oh, Jesus and God in the Bible, and no, demons aren't real. It's like, really?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Then all of the things that Jesus does when he casts out demons never happened, which means the Bible's lying. which means you believe in something that's not true. I just don't understand how they can jump to that conclusion.
Well, the way I've heard it explained to me is they didn't understand modern psychology back then. And so they referred to mental health issues as demons. That's why people...
That seems like a total cop-out.
Well, I don't disagree, but that's how the folks that I've talked to that I would say...
Are those the same people that say that the wine Jesus made really wasn't wine? It was just kind of funky water. That's why Christians shouldn't drink.
But haven't you ever...
Let me drink my beer real quick.
Haven't you ever heard of people referring to mental health issue as demons before?
No.
You've never heard that?
No, it's just crazy.
So like using it as a metaphor.
They're saying that's someone who is schizophrenic or has multiple personality disorder or something like that. They would say that that's what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And these people just gained superhuman strength because they had a mental issue.
Here's what I'll tell you on this. I've seen 5 cops wrestle somebody with superhuman strength who was having a mental episode.
Was he laced on something, or was it just totally
mental health?
Really?
I've seen both. I've seen drug induced.
Because that makes sense. I wonder if the brain just like sends a crazy amount of endorphins or whatever it is.
So I have seen that. Not to throw it back at you, but yeah.
Interesting.
So,
well,
and I disagree with that. I think you do too.
Well, yeah, I don't understand how people can have a biblical view of Christianity and then just deny that demons exist. Like, if they don't exist, then why did Jesus die in the first place? Like, if Satan does, like, because Satan's a demon, right? He's not Jesus' equal. It's not like two brothers that are equal that are opposing each other. No, Satan is like not even comparable. So if we don't believe in demons and Satan's not real and then evil, I just don't get it. Then why did Jesus come to save us from something that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
It seems kind of stupid to me. So I don't know. I think that there is a ton about this that we are completely ignorant of, especially nowadays when we are so medicated and distracted from what is really going on.
Mm-hmm.
As I stare at my computer and my phone and talking to a microphone and watch the lights beep on the soundboard, like even here, I can be totally distracted from the present reality. And I think that we'll get into that more here as we go along. But
yes.
Yeah, I think that you made the comment earlier, is people's interest in spirituality misplaced. And I think that's Satan's best tool, is to take our interests or our care or our passion and misplace them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you wonder why porn is $1 billion industry, because our passions for something that God made to be good have been misplaced somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And Satan's writing that check to the bank every day.
Yeah.
And I have more to say on that, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Because I don't want to steal my own made up thunder. So,
all right.
Anyways, so yeah, I would say an unhealthy, I wouldn't say obsession, but definitely an unhealthy trajectory.
Yeah.
Like the desire to embrace the spiritual side of things is totally misplaced for a lot of people.
Yeah. Because we are spiritual beings in a material world.
Right. And that I'm not talking about just non-Christians. I'm talking there's a lot of Christians that are totally misplaced in where they put their energy.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'll say it. Christians that tie their religion up in politics. Totally misplaced.
I would agree.
We should move on.
Well, no, and it's and those two things aren't mutually exclusive.
Right.
God may call you to be politically active. There's certainly that place.
Well, and that's not even what I'm talking. I'm talking about the people that.
But your identity.
That in order to be a good
right.
Christian, you have to be a conservative Republican.
Right.
In that whole viewpoint that the two are so intertwined that you can't tell one from the other anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To me, is the desire. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that their intentions are good.
Yeah.
And that their desire is to see God glorified in America. I think the problem with that is that they think the only way to do that is to be a incredibly conservative Republican. And if you don't do it the other way, then you're going to hell because you're not a good Christian, which is ridiculous to me.
Yes. I would agree.
I think we should get back on track, though.
Okay.
Dave, I'm warming up, man.
All right.
Opinions are going to start flying, I think. All right. So the demons, right away, identified Jesus as the Son of God. Like it what have you to do with us, O Son of God? Not like, oh, we're demons, we're going to eat you. Like the first thing is, why are you here? What do you want with us? Oh, by the way, we're just going to call you who you are. Like that to me is startling.
Mm-hmm.
What does that say about Jesus? Let's just start there. What does their immediate addressing of Jesus as the Son of God tell us now about him and what they saw?
Well, I think they see him for exactly who he was, and it wasn't veiled by his humanity. And it kind of goes back to where the Son of Man. Yeah, he was fully in human flesh, but they saw him. I mean, they're in tune. They're talking about being in tune with the spiritual realm.
Yeah,
they were, and
it totally. Like I got to imagine the disciples were just like, wait, what? Come again? These men that have been with Jesus at this point for long enough, they've seen him do crazy things and they're still a little bit confused. Like this is right after. So Jesus 2 episodes ago talked about Jesus confronting some people that wanted to follow him.
Mm-hmm.
Then last episode we talked about Jesus calming a storm. Mm-hmm. And then this episode, this is the other side of the lake. And they just witnessed him speak and a storm dissipate.
Right.
And they get across. So they're probably already a bit like freaked out. They almost died. They just saw something crazy. Then there's these 2 demon-possessed dudes, and the first thing out of their mouth is Son of God. And the disciples at this point have to be kind of like, why are they calling you? And trying to figure out just what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it says an incredible amount about the spiritual reality that we are so often blind to.
Yes.
That these disciples who have spent so much time with Jesus are still trying to struggle to figure out just exactly who this guy is. Like their question, who is this man that even the winds and the waves obey him? They still haven't figured it out yet. They're trying to put the pieces together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from a very physical, like what can I see? What can I hear? What can I sense? Trying to piece it together. And then these demons, the first time they see him, know exactly who he is from a distance. And they admit that. And so I think this is one of the passages in the Bible that's very telling about the difference and the distance between the physical reality that we see and touch and feel and smell and taste and everything, and the spiritual reality that is kind of like the real reality, if that makes sense,
mm-hmm.
in like a matrixy sort of way.
It's exactly what it is, I think. Except for it's not as simple as choosing the red pill or the blue pill.
Which one would you choose, Dave?
I'd want to know reality.
Yeah. Even if I get to eat his porridge.
Yes, I think I would. That's what I say on my podcast, talking about spiritual things.
All right. So the other thing that they say is, have you come to torment us before the time? And what do you think that means? Because to me, that's a very telling phrase. They know who he is, and they've said, have you come to torment us before the time? Mm-hmm. What's your take on that?
I think there is definitely, again, a spiritual perspective here. To me, the time is judgment, when God finally judges everybody. And I think ultimately they know what their destination is in terms of that judgment, and that is a life of eternal torment. And so, another thing that we don't like to talk about much as Christians is the existence of hell and the reality of hell. And here you have some pretty, what do they gain by putting this out there that, hey, hell's a real place and we're not in any hurry to get there before we have to.
Oh man.
So
rather go to the family reunion first.
Yeah. So there's an element here of, I mean, they're speaking from a very real, just, they can't hide behind the deceit anymore. They can't hide behind the lies. They are confronted with, Jesus, God incarnate, and he is, I think they are so flippin' scared. I mean, truly respond in the way we should respond when we're in the presence of God. And they can't help, they can't keep up the charade. They're shaking in their boots. They are scared to death. So,
well, I want to know how they know that first of all, that there is a time, what?
Well, because I think they have very much a sense of God has said, this is your eternal. But
how did that? Like, did Satan send out a memo? Like, oh, by the way,
no, I think they heard it from God. I think they heard it from God. I think there's a whole history of the angels falling, and because even the uprising. I think there's a whole. Maybe it exists. Somebody's created a fiction novel like this, but I think there's a whole story that actually happened of Satan's uprising and. Kind of this, some people it was an easy choice, some angels it was an easy choice for them, others it wasn't such an easy choice. And I think their reality has existed for much longer. And I think they knew when all that went down of, wow, this is our eternal. So, and here's the other thing. I do believe that Jesus can send some of them to that judgment before the actual judgment day, and that's why they asked to go in the pigs instead of being banished.
You're going to have to explain that one. I'm sorry. I watched Interstellar last night, so my brain is like very much wanting to know all the things right now. So explain what you mean by that.
I believe that there are different. We live in a very linear time frame. And God I don't think, operates in the same linear way.
Okay. Yeah, totally. I'm with that.
So that is one piece of that. The second thing is that I don't think Jesus has to wait till judgment day to send people to their eternal punishment. And I think he has sent some demons, and this will probably be another homework that I'm going to have to do to back up my statements, but that some demons have been sent there already. And that is what they are fearful of. And that's why instead of saying, hey, don't send us to hell, don't send us to that torment now, give us the chance to continue existing.
Go ruin some perfectly good bacon. Gosh,
yes.
What a waste.
So.
Okay. So does that mean that some people are already in paradise with God, even though the judgment hasn't happened yet in our time frame? If he can send demons to hell.
Yes, because I don't believe in a linear time with God. And I'm not going to say even be able to explain that, but.
You don't want to get into relativity?
I'm not smart enough to talk about relativity. I have a basic concept of relativity, and I do think that there are some probably some even truths to that, but so no, I think there is an element of God's time and our time is different, and that yes, some of the people who have died may be experiencing paradise in a way we can't comprehend it.
I kind of wonder if some of that's like dreaming too, like I don't know about you, but in my dreams, I accomplish way more than anyone can accomplish in 8 hours. I'm in different parts of the world and different people and time spans, months,
Yes.
And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, it's only been 7 hours. I should go back to sleep. That's not enough. My doctor says I need at least 8. But yeah, I think it's very easy for us to think of the judgment as somewhere in the future because it hasn't happened yet. And you're right, like we do live very linear lives. Our weekly calendar just every 7 days just resets, and then years every 365 and a quarter days it resets, and all of that. But I think when you start talking about God and eternity and when things happened and all of that, that's when time really starts to not matter, because I firmly believe that God operates outside of time. And I think that when he created the galaxy, time was a mechanism used to help build it. And so I think that because the demons are living in that physical reality, time actually means something. Like, is the time here yet? Like, has our time on Earth ended? But it still blew my mind that they recognized him for who he was right away, and they knew that like the jig was up. And I just kind of wonder, like, is Satan aware of that? If the demons know, then surely he knows he's screwed.
Yes.
And and I look at how human culture has been shaped over the last couple hundreds of years, and I just wonder if all of the progress that we're seeing in serious heavy air quotes is Satan really just ramping up the pressure to try and get as many people with him as possible.
Well, I think you said it earlier. I think he's smart enough to know that the best way to get as many people as possible is to convince him he's not real, and that he very seldom does he. I think I don't want to give him too much credit, but he was top angel, right?
Hi, I'm Lucifer, top angel. Nice to meet you.
And so he's incredibly smart. I think he's probably somewhat like patient. I mean, I think he gets maybe not patient, but he is strategic enough to know what's going to work for him and what's not going to work for him. And that I don't think I could be wrong, but he seems to be very good at what he does. And I don't think I don't feel like he's hurrying right now.
I kind of feel like he's cranking it up. I mean, like if you just look at, like, for every advance in human culture, it seems to me that Satan is keeping pace, if not anticipating it. So like, Christians found hospitals. Well, now most folks that are in hospitals are not Christians. And in fact, based on their science, don't believe that God existed. Like that twist, right?
Right, sure.
Most Christians founded universities.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Most universities are hotbeds for atheism. And there's no room in the. I shouldn't say that. That's an overstep. There are plenty of room. There are many strong Christians in academia, but it is not a Christian place.
No.
Nor is the science field, medical stuff.
No.
And so and then you look at technology, and I love technology. I'm a total tech nerd. I love gadgets. I watched the live blog for the Apple event, and then I went back and watched the video later, even though I knew everything. Like, that's just how I am. But you look at things that technology is being used for: pornography, Ashley Madison, cyberbullying, viruses to, steal all of your personal information and steal your identity. Like there's like for every advance that we've made as a culture, it seems like Satan is using all of those as well. Like he's not like, I can't think of like there's one thing where like, oh, Satan hasn't ruined that yet.
Well, but again, I think that's his MO. I think he's just very good at what he does. I mean, you take Christmas and Easter. I mean, he's done the exact same thing with the two major Christian holidays, and interwoven all kinds of pagan symbols and
rabbits that lay eggs.
Yeah.
Seriously, what's the deal with that one?
And back to your conservative Republicans that won't have anything to do with a liberal Democrat are totally okay with your Easter bunny and the eggs. It's like, if you're going to pick something, let's pick something that's pretty obvious that this is not Christian.
Oh boy.
Which, by the way, I would say I'm a conservative Republican. I'm not.
Oh, really? We should have a political discussion one time, Dave. Meredith asked me the other day, she's like, "Are you a Democrat?" I was like, I think I have Democratic tendencies. I don't know if I'd consider myself one, but
yeah, I would definitely say that's the way I lean.
Uh-huh.
I'm a Reagan Republican. That probably even puts me in a worse category.
Trickle down economics, right? That was Reagan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that was before my time. Not by much though. Well, he was president in what, mid 80s?
80 to 88.
Okay, yeah. So I
was inaugurated in 81, and then
yeah. So I was born in 86. So I was born into the Reaganomics.
Yeah, I actually remember both elections, believe it or not. So
I think the first election I remember was Bill Clinton. What was 94?
92, and then 96.
Oh yeah, because Bush was 82 or 88 to 92, and then Clinton was 92 to 2000. And then Bush was 2000, 2008, and it's been Obama for the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. 12 years of Bush presidency in my first 22 years
of existence.
Yes. One family. Now there's Jeb. He was on Stephen Colbert the other day. I was actually really impressed with him.
Really?
Then Joe Biden was on the night after that.
He's another good one.
That the interview with Joe Biden was incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to link to that in the show notes. It was really good.
That's the other thing. These are all incredibly smart men. And it's, talk about evil. It's amazing how quickly we want to villainize the people that think differently than us.
Well, and that's a total side tangent here. But
I know.
We've talked about this in the past where this whole idea that like we can't talk to each other because we disagree fundamentally on how the government should be taxing people. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned back, like Reagan would go out with the
Tip
opposition leader and go get a beer or whatever because they could still...
They were good friends.
Yeah, even though they disagreed drastically on how things should be policed. And one of the points that Jeb Bush made in his interview on Colbert was like, look, listen, the sort of childish disagreement and unwillingness to work together that happens in Washington, he goes, doesn't happen anywhere else. At state government or city government, that sort of stuff doesn't happen. People work together because they realize if they don't,
nothing's going to happen.
Exactly. And he's like, we need to get the Congress back to a point where they are actually doing their jobs and governing. And the crowd at that point was just like clapping, like, oh my gosh, this is, and Stephen Colbert's like, you actually think this is possible? And he's like, it has to be. If we want this country to be great, like we all say it is, then Congress needs to stop being children and grow up and actually start working together to build the future that we want. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I'd ever get that excited about Jeb Bush, but I was like, that I could get behind. So.
I think the voters need to get that way too.
Well, and one of the points he made too is that most people see what's going on in Washington and just say my vote's not going to change anything because the congressmen just do whatever they want. You know, so why would I vote when nothing's going to change? And so it's just like this cycle of Congress doesn't do their job. People get discouraged because they see that, so they don't vote, which means that new blood doesn't get brought in because the old guy just keeps winning because he's been, and it's he's like, no, people have to vote. He goes, your vote matters because your vote may be the one vote that gets that person out of Congress and brings in someone that actually wants to do his job or her job.
Yeah, I've been listening to an Abraham Lincoln biography where they're talking about 80% turnout for the elections, the presidential elections. And I was like, I didn't think that ever happened.
Yeah.
Shows my jaded view of our political system.
Well, and that was his point. Is like, we need to get the government back to a place where in the public eye, the people feel like they're actually being represented.
Yeah, it's called representative for a reason.
Yeah.
All right.
So back to the Bible.
but and that's I think that applies though of why we do this podcast is it what Jesus said matters in our world today, and that much of what we were just referring to does directly tie back to principles that are foundational in who he was and what he said. So,
all right. So I feel like this was a good point to dive into the two other gospels of the oh my gosh, synoptic gospels there.
Synoptic
I was like
gospels.
the semantic gospels. Nope, that's not the right word, Cam. Synoptic, that's the right word. So that'd be Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're the three gospels that have the most in common. John's kind of off in its own little corner, where it's totally different. So this story does have somewhat matching stories in Mark and Luke, but do you want to explain the differences briefly, or did you just want to read them?
I'm gonna let the listeners read these, and this kind of stemmed from I debated about whether even going there, because the podcast is more about just this is what Jesus said, but the more I kind of studied this and looked it up, it was like it's kind of hard to ignore these two other stories, and I'm going to kind of sum it up in that one of the main differences between the other two gospels is that they only refer to one demon-possessed man. They don't refer to two. And the simplest explanation is the person who wrote Matthew was probably writing from a firsthand, this is what I saw kind of a thing. I was there. There were two demon-possessed men, and in the verse that we read, there's only one verbal interaction. There aren't two verbal interactions. He just talks to one of the demon-possessed man. And so if I would see that, well, I would see the conversation with the demon-possessed man, but I also go, that guy's demon-possessed too because of the way he's behaving. However, if I wasn't a firsthand witness and there was a story told to me, or I heard an account of this particular event, as somebody's telling the story, they're probably going to talk about the dialogue between Jesus and the demon-possessed man that he has the dialogue between. And so therefore, it's not that there weren't two men there, but when I'm telling the story, I'm going to focus on the conversation that happened between the two and not necessarily bring up the fact that there was a second demon-possessed person. So the differences between the accounts really come down to whose perspective is this as the story or the event is being told versus it being different stories. And I guess if people want to know more about that, we can delve into that. But
well, the one question I had was in the Mark and Luke passages. He says that his name is Legion, for
right.
We are many, which is like one of the coolest responses, but also like scary movie cool. Like, what's your name? We are Legion, for we are many. Like it gives you kind of the chills, you know. That's not at all. That's not in the Matthew story at all. So like to your point, like okay, so someone's retelling the story. Where does that part come from? Because that's not in this part.
Well, first of all, Legion, we are many. The Roman army at that particular time, if you had a legion of men, you had about 4,000 men. So I don't know if there's like 4,000 demons in this guy or what, but I thought that was really interesting. Was that
it's like a clown car of demons? There's the show title.
I think it's again, and I haven't totally spent a lot of time looking at the other ones, but I think one of the things that that Matthew is doing in this sequence of events kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, in that he's focusing on what is it that he wants to get across. Well, he's getting across kind of this, the disciples are beginning to realize that he is God. And so he chooses to kind of focus on that particular message that, that comes from the demon-possessed man. And again, one of the perspectives that I will just say is that, as a police officer, when we go to a scene and we ask 3 different people what happened here in terms of this crime that was just committed, all 3 of you just witnessed this. All 3 of them are going to give us a different version of events. And again, it's what about that particular interaction that just stood out to you is what you're going to report. And for whatever reason, Matthew doesn't choose to focus on the fact that he says, "My name is Legion." There's obviously a herd of pigs that gets affected by this.
Yeah, the outcome for the pigs is bad in all 3.
Yeah,
scenarios.
And so if demons are being driven out from a couple of men into an entire herd of pigs, then obviously there's more than one. There's multiple, and kind of implicit in them leaving them and going to the herd of the pigs is that there are many. So yeah, that excuse me, that doesn't surprise me. I've literally been on calls, police calls, where people will describe a vehicle. One will say it's black, one will say it's silver, and one will say it's red. I've literally seen that happen. 3 different witnesses all saw the same car. They all described it as 3 different colors.
That's got to be frustrating.
It is frustrating. But and
it winds up being yellow, probably.
There's a lot of different reasons. One person sees it when it's right underneath the street light, and for whatever reason, that street light turns that silver car to a little bit red. The one person gets a real clear view of it when it truly is silver, and then the other person sees it, it's down the block, and all they're seeing is the taillights coming on, and it's in the shadows and it's in the dark. And one of the things that you have to learn as a police officer is to not change people's stories, because that's what you want to do. You want to go, well, the car's silver, so my report needs to say that the car is silver. And when it's like, no, I have to report what you tell me that you saw. So I don't know if that gives an answer or not, but.
So you don't think it's a big deal that the stories are different?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. And again, I don't think anybody that really thinks about it would argue that 3 different people are going to give 3 different versions of the same event to some degree.
Okay.
Especially if people weren't necessarily a primary. I'm not going to get into Q source and all.
Oh gosh.
I'm just kidding. I just brought it up, but
you're bringing back memories from my Gospels class.
So
Q,
no.
What
is that? I don't even know if that's right.
Yeah, no, it is. It's Q is the source, but it always reminds me of Q from James Bond.
That's what I was saying.
And now I want a pen that turns into a bomb and a shoe that's a telephone, but that was more Get Smart than anything. So, anyways, all right. So, do you think that we should, as Christians, take this stuff a little bit more seriously?
I do.
Generally speaking,
I think we should take the spiritual realm more seriously. I think we should be more in tune with the spiritual realm. And I think it boils down to what you alluded to earlier, is that, you said it outright, is that the spiritual realm is more like reality than reality is reality. And sorry.
It's a lot of realities, Dave.
Yes. That we truly live in the spiritual realm, but we are so focused on material. I think we miss much by not being more focused on the spiritual realm of things. The main place where I'm seeing it time and again is arguments, especially amongst Christians. And it's just, we don't even consider the fact that, wow, maybe there's some other force at play here, and there's a reason why you and I are disagreeing, when really we probably are saying the same thing. So I need to take a step back and realize that.
All right. Next question.
Mhm.
Why does Jesus do the demons a total favor and let them go into the herd of pigs? Seems kind of weird. Like some innocent farmer's pigs just dead. They're all floating in the water.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. I have no idea how many words we read here, maybe a couple hundred in this verse 28 through 34. And the only word that Jesus says in all that is go. That's the only actually what Jesus said and how it applies today to our lives that's part of this. There's kind of an element of, the demon just sees Jesus like, what have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come to torment us? Cast us out, send us away into the herd of pigs. And Jesus kind of looks at him and goes, go. Just go. That's how awesome Jesus is you got this legion of demons that are freaking over him being God, and his only thing is go. Just go. So, I think he does him a favor because, again, I think he's operating from an eternal perspective. I don't know why he's nice to him, but I think he's operating from an eternal perspective of my time hasn't come yet and your time hasn't come yet. And
so go ruin that shepherd's life. Just seems like and the ending result of the people coming and telling him to leave, like, it's a totally bad PR move.
It is a
bad PR on the surface, it's a terrible PR move. Then you get down below and you're kind of like, well, what did the farmer do to deserve that? And I know that that's like a totally immature way to look at it. Like, life isn't fair and that's just the way it is. But you just kind of like, of all the things Jesus did, a lot of them make sense and a lot of them are justifiable. Or to the point that you don't even need to justify them, they just make sense. And this is the one where I'm just kind of like, really? And people make it a statement about, pigs were unclean. And then, Jesus changed that. We can eat pigs now. They're tasty and delicious. And we live in Kansas City, so we eat pig all the time because barbecue's wonderful. But I've never been able to come up with an answer that I am comfortable with for this one.
And again, if I even shared my opinion, it's purely speculation. But I think there's some laws that exist in the spiritual realm of they have to go into another creature, and Jesus, they have to possess something, so they possess the pigs. But then in that, why do they immediately run down the hill and kill the pigs?
They're throwing a tantrum. They got caught.
Because then the demons didn't remain in the dead pigs, I assume. They then left and went somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I think there are so many layers to this that we just can't even begin to comprehend without doing some seriously deep study on this, and maybe that's what we should be doing. But
I just put it down as homework for me. Why the pigs, Dave? Why? I don't know. They're just pigs, but still, they're someone's livelihood,
What I honestly don't know. Do they? I'm guessing if somebody has a herd of pigs, then they ate pigs back then.
Well,
it's probably not.
I don't believe. I don't. The country of the Gadarenes. I don't know where in. I know it's across the Sea of Galilee
on the east side.
On the east side, so that they're probably still Jews, but I'm not. I'm going to add that to the homework too.
Well, one of the things that we didn't touch on is where the demon possessed men are. They're basically in a cemetery.
Creepy.
So I'm gonna totally sneeze. Nope.
False alarm.
Psych. I psych myself out. So the Gadarenes, I don't think that's a Jewish place. They're definitely coming out of the tombs. So this is basically a cemetery, which if you're demon possessed, that seems unclean to me. If you're in a cemetery, I get the feeling that's unclean too, from Jewish tradition and ceremonies.
Yeah, don't go near dead bodies.
That pigs are unclean. So
I guess the better question is why is Jesus and the disciples in that area?
Yeah, I mean, did he send them there knowing that they would run into demon possessed men? Hey, here's really what I think. I think he's got a very practical reason, like we've been talking about. He was tired, he fell asleep in the boat, and he's trying to get away from the crowds. He goes to the place where
no one would go.
Well, no one would go, and it says they were so fierce that no one could pass that way. Like, these guys are so tough that, they're beat up anybody that goes through. And Jesus is like, well, I know if we go here and we go here, there ain't going to be a crowd to deal with. We'll be able to walk right through, except for these couple of demon guys that are going to be there.
I hadn't thought of that before.
So yeah, it just, but I agree with you. I still don't have a complete grasp of why the pigs and why did he have mercy on them? Why did he allow them a way out to demons?
All right. One more question.
Sure.
I guess in closing, as we, do every episode, we end the episode. But before we do that, maybe just a closing thought on what this says about Jesus' authority over evil. But like you said, he said one word and problem solved.
Yeah. I guess as I'm beginning to talk, there's kind of like, well, it's fairly obvious. He's pretty powerful.
Well, duh, but I want give me some meat, Dave.
Oh, I know. I think that as soon as we started out with, as soon as they saw him, they knew who he was. He had to say a single word, and they obeyed his single word. I guess as if I was a disciple and I was with Jesus when all this was going on, and I had just witnessed all of this, I mean, I'd seriously be going, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? What is it about this guy that, I mean, the demons immediately knew who he was. And not only did they know who he was, but they're begging for their very existence from him. They get that they're not even worthy to be in his presence. They get that if he chooses to deal with them in the way that he has the right to deal with them, it's no bueno for them. It's, and yet I think the disciples are still not cluing in. I think they're still, like we, mentioned earlier on, of not cluing in. And I think it very much is a sense of this is his supreme authority, and it's as simple as him saying one word, and they are cast out of this man. And interestingly enough, he doesn't really have a conversation with the man himself either. The whole time he's talking with the demons.
Well, in this version.
Yeah.
And then in Mark and Luke, he tells them to go back to the Decapolis and do what they got to do. But.
Right. So, yeah, they don't even really have an option here. They basically have to do what he says. And I think for us, that should be a reassuring thing to know about him, is that, he who is in us is stronger than he's in the world. And I don't think we operate from that. Well, I don't operate from that place all the time of allowing him to be Lord and having that kind of authority. Because my guess would be is if I was presented with him in his true existence, I would behave much like the demons did. I'd be like, oh, Jesus, have mercy on me.
We're not worthy. Well, I think it ties in with last week too. We're talking about fear. And this should be a reassurance that we don't need to fear evil.
Yeah.
And that's really easy to say in peacetime, but I think that this is a very illustrative story to remind us that Jesus has power over even something that can control our bodies and our minds. And that reassures me to know that I don't have to fear the devil.
Right.
I don't have to fear his dirty little minions the way that I fear God. Do I want anything to do with Satan and his minions? No, I'm not going to go seek him out. Not going to invite him over for dinner. Like, I'm just not going to do that. But at the same time, I don't have to be afraid of them lurking around every corner.
Right.
Yep. Because I got Jesus. So.
Yes.
All right. Any parting thoughts before we bid our dear listeners adieu?
I think that is a great place to come to an end.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 28. We really do appreciate your support. Really, honestly, truly. I should just let my yes be my yes, Dave.
Yes.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate it. If you want to check out some of the links and videos we mentioned throughout this episode, you can go get our show notes at masterclassfm.com/masterclass/28. Or if you're listening on your smartphone, you can probably just scroll up on the artwork and the show notes will magically appear beneath it. You can also get in contact with us and let us know what we messed up. And any other follow-up questions you have, because we've got homework for ourselves because we're nerds and we assign ourselves homework, but we would really love for you to give us some homework. So you can do that by getting us on Twitter at masterclassfm, or you can email us at masterclassfm@gmail.com. Right? Masterclassfm.
Yeah, there's no ad at the beginning.
Well, okay. Email us. The address is masterclassfm@gmail.com.
Yes.
Man, we're so professional. All right. Well, until next time, I think it's time to say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.